What's going on, guys? Carlos here, composer, arranger, and performer. To talk to you again about how to analyze jazz standards. So today we're going to look at this tune by Rodgers and Hart. It's called Have You Met Miss Jones, which is another famous one among young jazz students, specifically for the key here and sort of the progression that happens throughout this tune. So we're going to kind of look through this video at the A section, the B section, how it contrasts, and what really is unique about this tune and why young students and professionals like to sort of play over it and show their stuff over this tune. So anyways, let's jump right in. As you can see here, we're in the key of F, right? We have one flat here, one flat, and F major 7 here at the beginning, F major 7 at the end. That's kind of how we can determine the key here, right? And I mentioned we used a 1-6-2-5 progression here, right? So in the key of F, I'll play this here, right? So if we have, we'll go with a major 9 chord here. So if we had this, right? So that's the normal 1-6-2-5 progression happening here, right? So if we look at that, we have an F major 7 here. So let's add this in real quick with our Roman numerals, major 7. Okay, so this looks like a little funny chord here. This doesn't really fit in what I just played. So let's skip it for now. We can jump to the next chord. Add this in. This happens to be a 2, a minor 2, 7 chord, right? If we look ahead, we have the C7, right, which is the 5-7 chord. If we look at this, so we have an F major 7, so this is the funny chord in here, right? G flat diminished or F sharp diminished written on the paper here. Right? So how does that fit in within this? Well, if we look at this chord, right here, it's written in flats, but we usually have an F sharp, A, C, right? G flat diminished. So these are technically the same notes as if I played a D7, right? Without the D in the bass, right? Which is a really common chord used here. It would normally be, in this 1-6-2-5, a D7, right? It's easily a D7. And the note they're using here is, well, the chord they're using here is an F sharp diminished, right? So, right? If we were to add that in with a D, we get a D7 flat 9. So it's really a substitute for this D7 flat 9, which makes a whole lot of sense because, if we look at this next chord, G minor, D7 is a 5 of G, right? D is the 5 of G. And a minor 7 flat 9 chord is in a minor key, is a very common tension leading to the G minor resolution. So we did this, right? Right? So we'd have the flat 9 leading to the 5 of G, right? So if that makes sense. But in here, we have this cool leading tone up to the G, the F sharp diminished. And it sort of follows this type of thing, like we were talking about up here. We also have a chromatic tension happening in the bass, right? So the way we kind of notate this might be to say it's a, flat 2 diminished 7, something like that. Or right here, it's basically a 6-7 flat 9, right? So two different ways to look at this. Basically the same type of chord happening here, right? So let's jump ahead and look at this A minor 7, right? So actually this is sort of the same type of thing we talked about with using the same notes, right, with a D. And A minor 7 really has the same notes as an F major 7 without the F, right? We have this, normally with F major 7's that. If we had, this chord, F major 9, right? But here, it's sort of the same thing happening. With this melody note, we do have the 11 in the melody. This is a little bit of a funny chord because we have an F natural in there. Sometimes I might like to use this voicing, with a minor 9, but it becomes a little funny with that note in there. So maybe I'll stick without it. Right? Okay, so let's enter this in. This is basically a 3-7 chord. And right here, this time we do have the 6 chord happening, and in this case minor, because of this melody, right? So we would have a 6-7 chord, right? And then back here we have another 2-5 leading back to the top. So a 2-7 and a 5-7, right? So let's play through this one time. So right? So I wanted to add one little cool progression that a lot of people like to enter here in this first ending. So I'll play starting here at this A minor. So if we start right there. Right, so a couple things happening here. So basically what happens is this G minor is going to move over here, this type of thing. And we're going to insert some chords over here. So the chords I inserted with this melody note, right, was this A flat minor 7 going to a D flat, right? So if we analyze that, that's basically the same type of chord progression happening in the next measure, but it's just up a half step, right? And really, I guess it's an A flat minor 9 to a D flat 13, if we wanted to include the melody note there, right? So it's really common to use this type of chord, which really isn't in the key of F, but it adds a really colorful sound with this specific note, and leading to the next progression, it really makes sense. You know, improvisers really love to play over these moving 2-5s or descending 2-5. Then I added this chord in here, right? Really interesting chord. Basically, because of this B flat in the top, I wanted to make it a little more colorful, because using the 7 on top is not always the most colorful option here. And when we have the dominant chord, we have a lot of opportunity for an alteration to happen. So I inserted this G flat chord, right, over the C7, right? It creates a lot of tension there, which this G flat can resolve right back down to this F major 7, right, in a nice way. So let's start from the A minor 7. C minor 7, then to this F7, right? A lot of times I like to, if you have a D in the F, you could do a similar thing like I showed you with the C7 and insert an upper structure triad. In this case, you could actually use a D triad, right? Because you have this G flat, or F sharp is the flat 9 right here, and it leads really well to the F in the B flat major 7, as we can see. So let's check that out on the diagram here, right? So it says even on here a D over F7 chord happening, right? If you look at my fingers, you know, D, G flat, A, D really should be F sharp, right? Oops. Right, then we go down here to the 4 chord, right? So if we're analyzing this, right here we have a C minor 7, F7 to the B flat major 7, right? So B flat's a key chord right here. It's the 4 chord and B flat, so we're not moving too far off right here, right? And then basically, if you look at the C minor 7, F7, F7 is the 5 of this, like we talked about, adding some of these extra notes in here. The tension can help reiterate that. But if we enter this right here, we could say it's something like the 2, 7 of 4, and right here, this is the 5, 7 of 4, right? And this is really a 4 major 7. All right, and here's where the chords get a little fancy here on the bridge, right? So to kind of find home chords in a piece, we'd want to look for either major, most likely major chords, right? So if we skip this for a second, we look ahead, we got a G flat, which is an interesting chord here. In the key of F, it's a flat 2 chord. So we could analyze this sort of as a flat 2 major 7, right? Also known as a Neapolitan in classical music, although they sometimes mark it a little differently, but we can say for now flat 2, sharp 1, however you want to think about it. Then we skip ahead here to a D major, which really is not in this key. So, I mean, we could say this is a 6 major chord in this key, but it's including some funny notes. F sharp is not normally in this key, but we'll do this for now. And then we jump back here to the flat 2. All right, so if we sort of analyze this progression here on its own, this B flat, G flat, D, as you can see, this is moving down in minor thirds, right? Which is a really common progression used before, actually, in classical music. Different romantic composers would use this type of progression. And it's really interesting. So if you come from this B flat down to a G flat, then to a D, right? Right? So you kind of get that sound. If I were just to play the triad, really interesting sound, really sticks out there. So that's kind of how you want to think about the bridge here, sort of going through these 3 different key centers, right? And I would just start to think, okay, we're modulating to G flat, we're modulating to D, then we're modulating back to G flat. Then we have a turnaround here, back a 2-5 back here to the beginning. And we have sort of the same chords going on here. The way we'd sort of analyze this middle part is we could say minor 2 7 of the flat 2 major 7. So that seems really complicated, right? But really, you could say it's just a minor 2. It's just A flat, D flat, G flat happening here, right? So so it's just a 2-5 leading to this new key. So right here, we could say this is the 5 7 of flat 2 major 7, right? Like I said, it does look a little complicated, but what this is doing is telling us to go to G flat. That's basically it. You know, and the melody, the reason why this works so well here on the bridge too, you can't just insert these chords and think it's going to work on anything. The sort of the contour of the melody and the repetition of the melody helps this work. This idea, a repetition of the melody, and then the melody sort of soars towards the highest, actually to the highest point in the whole song, besides the very end here. Right? That's sort of the climax here so far of the piece. So I'll sort of play through this here on the piano. Added some nice passing tones in there. You know, at the end here, we got the same sort of progression happening. I don't think we need to dive too much into this. I hope this has kind of helped you understand this tune a little bit and what you can do. Sort of the main thing to look at here is the progressions happening, right? The 1-6-2-5 and sort of adding in this up a half step 2-5 progression here because of the colorfulness of the melody, the 9, the 13. Then later getting to the 4 chord, which is a really common landing point on a bridge in a lot of different kinds of standards here. Then this modulation down in major thirds. You know, leave any questions down below if you want me to go in more analysis on this. I wanted to keep the video hopefully not too long. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.